I remember not even necessarily knowing what the songs were, but seeing pictures and live footage of this band called Ghost that has like what is he, a preacher, a cardinal, I don't know, and there's a bunch of masked people. And then my first real experience with Ghost is that I forget where they were playing. They were playing somewhere in the US, and we had a day off and we were going to go and see them. And then Tobias asked me and one of my best friends that was working for us on tour, he asked if both of us would be nuns in the actual show. So like, we already have the costumes, like, will you get up and do that with us? And this is before I even really knew any songs by Ghost. I'm like, this is hilarious. So we gave everybody communion. Like, she gave, out the bread, and I had the wine. And it was just absolutely amazing to be a part of. And then shortly after that, Square Hammer came out, and that song came on the radio, and I loved the song so much. And then at the end of the song, the DJ knew one from Ghost, and I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. What a great song. And then of course from there, I've just been obsessed. Obviously Rats is one of my favorite. This new album I've listened to about 20 times now, and I'm obsessed with it as well. But I love just the idea that you can have this heavy music that's almost religious satire, and it has like this comedic aspect to it and a smile. But also, if you've ever been to a Ghost concert, there are people that legit think they're worshiping Satan. Like, they go into full worship mode. So I just love all of that, those things together, in a nice little package with this band. Tobias is such a, he's a genius. He's such a smart man, and very, very, like, probably one of the most interesting people that you if you get to have a conversation, that he's the most interesting person I think that I've ever met. Very well spoken. And what I admire about him, because I don't think I know any other band that does this, but Tobias always has a plan. He's thinking about 5 years ahead of where he needs to be with this band and this project. I remember talking with Nick Resculin. It's the same producer that just did our last record. He also did an album with Ghost. I remember him talking to me about how Tobias would show him all of these songs that were not meant for this specific record. They were meant for 2 records down the line, because he has a timeline, and he has the story already figured out, and all of the production already figured out. And my producer was like, oh, these are such great songs, we should record them. And Tobias is like, no, the world isn't ready yet. So I really love that idea of him. And he's done the same thing with me in the past, where he's shown me some production drawings and little things that he's going to be doing a couple of years from now. And then a couple of years would go by, and then we would go and see them, like, oh yeah, that was that thing he was talking about. That's amazing. So just to be able to think like that, I really admire, as far as just a career plan and a mission statement, because I am completely not like that. I've tried the 5-year plan thing, and every time I make plans, we finally get to that point and something has changed, and so I have to pivot and do something different. So I'm more of a living in the now person. So we're the complete opposite, me and Tobias, in that aspect. But I definitely admire him for the way that he is. There's been so much musically and lyrically that I've taken from that I've stolen from Ghost, that I've taken from them as inspiration. I think that the way, especially from I feel like the last 3 albums that he's released, that Ghost has released, I feel like they're very unapologetic in the major side of things, and dare I say, There's some almost 80s cheese and like almost hair metal aspects to what he includes in his music. And it's funny because for me, I definitely have an 80s bone in my body. That was really where I started listening to music, was in the mid to early 90s. I was listening to my dad's bands, like hard rock 70s and 80s metal. So so it almost gave me the okay, like Ghost was started to do that. I'm like, oh, okay, if Ghost thinks this is cool, I can do that again, and let me add some synths to my thing. But also just the way that he approaches his vocals and the personality that you hear coming through. That's hard to do as a singer, and not many people even really get to that point as a singer where you almost feel like that personality is reaching out through the speakers and just poking you in the ear. And he knows how to do that really, really well. And so in turn, I've started approaching my vocal production techniques in a little bit of a different way, whereas I don't necessarily do everything in a super simple way anymore. I add the pads, I add how can I add more personality to not only to the main vocal, but maybe there's that background vocal that sounds like the evil version of me, but then I have this lighter version of me out front, just kind of get those layers. And so it doesn't always sound so wall of sound and linear. So I definitely cite Ghost with a lot of those influences. And right now I'm obsessed with Impera, and I definitely whatever we do next, whatever album we do next, I'm sure you'll be able to pinpoint where where Ghost has led me in one direction or another. Let's see. Okay, so number one, I'm probably going to have to go with Meliora. I never pronounce their things right because I never hear it said. I'm always trying to predict it. I'm gonna have to go with that because really that was the one that struck me, that I didn't even know that was Ghost, and that has Square Hammer on it. So that was my introduction to them. So I'm gonna say that guy. And then when it started to get really epic and almost, I want to say, like, I don't want to say Disney. That's a bad way to go. Sorry. But when he started to really map out some of the journeys, and the transitions in between the song, that was during Prequel, which I think was around 2018. And then really, I love this album so much. I love Impera. I think it's some of his best work and some of Ghost's best songwriting, I think, to date. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to go with those, but I love it all though, and then of course on Prequel there's Rats, and you can't find a better revenge song than that. But so yeah, I'll have to go, I'll go with those guys, which I guess go in order, right?